green hills of Wales. On the first Saturday in May, the setting for a new kind of motorsport, a hill rally.
What is it? Well, it's a four-wheel drive rally, and that's not just for fun. You wouldn't do this thing with anything less than four-wheel drive. It's right over the top of most of the Welsh mountains. Some of it's hideously steep, some of it's hideously rough. But unlike the old reliability trial, the chap who wins this is the chap who goes fastest. And some of the big Range Rovers at the beginning are going to be doing nearly 70 miles an hour. So it's quite a hairy event.
The Nantipandi Valley, about 15 miles from the start. Anything with four-wheel drive could enter. Over half were Land Rovers, sometimes 20 years old and still holding the tracks as well as sheep. Their big rivals, the American Jeep. The hill rally is still amateur. The professionals haven't moved in yet. Some of the drivers bought their Land Rovers for £30. Old Series 1 models at best, with plenty of torque for climbing and clambering through the mud. Aren't new. This one grew out of the French Rallye des Cimes in the Pyrenees, but now they might become international. And if the factory teams come, what then? No room perhaps for the shop assistants, clerks and waiters who took part in this first British bone-shaking event. On a veteran Land Rover, there's not much give in the springs and skimpy padding in the seats. Haflingers do it differently. They're slower, but they can lock up each differential separately, and that gives them a lot of grip. Their lighter weight lets them pick their way through the mud where heavier cars would sink in. An air-cooled engine at the back, only 643cc, and well named after a mountain pony. Made for Austrian smallholders, the Haflinger's got small wheels and soft springs. Not much ground clearance either, but it won the under 1000cc class in this weekend contest of bouncing and battering across the moors. Mahuntlith, a stop for Saturday lunch. Everybody's still going. A few are dented, but no cars are broken yet. But now the organisers turned the pressure on, and the powerful Range Rovers were soon in trouble. Soft going didn't suit them. On harder ground, their speed gave them an advantage, and their V8 engines normally got them up hills a good deal faster than this. Roger Mortimer of Coventry put the latest V8 engine into his 1950 Land Rover, and sometimes the extra power wasn't much help. Battling with the beauty of the Welsh countryside, 3 Land Rovers from the British Army Motoring Association, Sergeant Trevor Spur at the wheel. The All-Wheel Drive Club put in 6 American Army Jeeps, good all-rounders, plenty of ground clearance, good torque from 4-cylinder power, strongly built and designed from the start for scrambling on sand and dirt, but not fast enough. The high-geared Rovers were quicker across the moors. Until the final stage of this 200-mile event, Michael Green from Jacksdale Notts led the rally with a Land Rover 20 years old, a determined drive on difficult tracks, wet and dry. The first day produced few breakdowns. One Land Rover changed a spring between controls, another balked at a river 3 feet deep in freezing mountain water. Water, mud, ruts and rocks. 43 competitors put up with it all for 48 hours, and the chance of winning prizes only big enough to pay their petrol home. What a way to spend a weekend in Wales. But the memories they took away of this bouncing and battering were clear and enjoyable.
The actual cross-country sections were pretty fast and very rugged. It's a matter of controlling the vehicle with a possible precipice on one side and a mountain wall on the other side. Bumps were the trouble, and not wrecking the vehicle.
Well, you're just bouncing from rut to rut anyway. There's no real control coming into it. You just keep your right foot flat on the floor and hope.
If it wasn't for the seat belts, you would be thrown around. It's extremely uncomfortable, and without them you would be bashing your head on the crash bars and side windows and be thrown from one seat to the other.
You can glide over a jump if you're mad enough, if you know what's the other side, but if you're out on the fresh bit of ground and you just glide over a jump, you haven't a clue what's the other side. You just try and pick what looks like the best bit of ground. If you can see a big swamp in front with wheel ruts going in and not going out the other side, well, someone's got stuck, so try and have a go at another bit.
The dam at Nanty Mock, and the first real road the drivers have seen since 8 in the morning. Ahead of them, a night stop in a 3-star hotel, then a Sunday morning of slithering in the mud all over again. The hill rally would finally be won by a Range Rover with a works development engineer called Roger Craythorne from Solihull in the driving seat. What was his particular brand of skill?
The skill is in spotting which rut is the smoothest about 50 yards before you hit it.
In the forestry stages, with the drainage ditches, with the Range Rover having permanent 4-wheel drive and not hanging the back end of the car out like you do with a normal car or Land Rover in 2-wheel drive, we tend to tuck the near side wheels into the rut to coast round corners. I don't think it's dangerous. It just depends on the driver and how quickly he's travelling. If you're going to be silly about it, then I think you could end up in a sticky situation.
A sticky situation. The hill rally was full of them. Hardly a leisure sport, but it's growing, and if the RAC say yes, there'll be an international in October. Hill rallies are coming up in the world. They're something between flying and powerboat racing. No danger to family motorists on ordinary roads, cheap by motorsport standards, and fairly safe. Best of all, there's no shortage in Britain of drivers or navigators young and tough enough to stand up to 2 days of this kind of punishment for a prize of £50 and the kick of being first in something new, rough, and really spectacular.
Well, that's the first British hill rally. It hasn't been entirely successful from an organisational point of view, because on some of the sections a few people have got stuck in and the rest of the competitors couldn't get past them. So that at lunchtime on the first day, the rally was an hour and a half late and more had to be chopped out of it to make it work. In 1 or 2 cases, even the marshals couldn't get to the beginning of the sections, so that made more confusion. But nevertheless, everybody seems to have enjoyed it. The competitors on the whole have had a whale of a time, and at least we've been in at the birth of a new sort of British motorsport. So we could say that even if mother and child have had a rather rough night, they're looking forward to a very exciting future.